Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. Okay, so it's here. Yes, it is. It's here. Thor number 2, man, let me tell you something. Couple things going on. First, I am moving to Columbus today. I start that drive today. So for the next 4 days, I will be on the road. Number 2, myself and Mariah are going to be at Lexington Comic-Con, March 22nd through 26th, I think it is. You can look up the dates, but we're going to be out there because I'm from Lexington, right? And it's going to be 2.5 hours away from Columbus. No reason not to go. Number 3, make sure you guys check out Patreon, right? You get ad-free videos over there, right? So do not forget, you guys get ad-free videos. You guys get the monthly comic book show. Depending on what tier you're in, you get a free trade. And then if you're in a higher tier, you get a free trade plus a trade of your choice. And that happens every single month. And then if you join another higher tier, you're guaranteed a RobCore ring. And then if you join the highest tier, you get a RobCore Honor Guard ring, which is like totally different from all the other RobCore rings. So make sure you guys go check out patreon.com/comicsexplained. Yes. So in the last video, basically Thor became a Herald of Galactus. And it's amazing how this comic opens up, right? Because what you end up getting here is you kind of get this really interesting monologue, right? It's like the question, what will you do when the day comes, when your worst and your future cease to be, right? When the entirety of you, of who you are and who you will ever be, becomes moot in the silent, indifferent cold that falls across your universe. Now, here's a funny thing about this. We've kind of seen this, right? The Black Winter is what Donny Cates has been calling this. And for the most part, there's no reference to anything called the Black Winter in Marvel Comics, right? So Donny Cates really kind of seems to be flying by the seat of his pants with this insofar as he's making it up. I wouldn't say flying by the seat of his pants. He's probably got a plan. You know, I have a hard time believing he doesn't have all this planned out. He's just writing each comic and just hoping he gets to a conclusion. No, he's a really good writer. So he's got this all planned out. So that's kind of a misnomer, but it really does look like this Black Winter, right? This black snow that falls and then appears to have a kind of antimatter or disintegrating effect as it literally starts to eat away at everything. Now, this is when your mind gets blown because what this Black Winter, what this being basically says is that your world will do what every world does. It'll send its best heroes against us. It'll send its best heroes against me. And what we get is Superman. Then we get the Flash, and then we get the Green Lantern all racing towards whatever this threat is. We get the Justice League, right? And it's just like, wow, like it, dude, is I saw that and I was like, no way. No way, man. But see, we know that Marvel and DC are going to be crossing over, right? We know this crossover is going to happen, and so it kind of makes sense. Now, if I'm being honest with you guys, and this is kind of my take on this thing. So if you guys remember back during Scott Snyder's Justice League, he was talking about how Perpetua, who really kind of did everything, you know, created the original multiverse in DC Comics, and then that was basically wiped away when she was put in the source wall. And then we got the current version of the multiverse from DC's first comics running up until now, including Crisis on Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, all that kind of stuff. Perpetua was sent to create the multiverse by the Omniversal Judges. So here's my question: if that's the case, what if Perpetua is on par with like the One Above All, right? And so the One Above All is quote unquote the creator of the multiverse in Marvel Comics and was sent forth by the Omniversal Judges, right? So essentially, Perpetua and the One Above All are more or less equivalents. They're more or less equals, and they're two of a multitude of different beings that were sent out into the Omniverse to create multiverses. That's my question. I think that'd be a great way to link Marvel and DC, kind of like the brothers from the 1990s crossover. But nonetheless, it's a cool idea, right? Because what you end up getting is basically this Black Winter more or less covering this DC Comics world. Now, we don't know if it's really like the main DC universe, but it's covering this DC Comics world. And then the other thing to really kind of solidify this sort of crossover is you get the hand of creation rising up in that universe, right? Those of you guys who don't know the reference to this, this is from Crisis on Infinite Earths, right? Like the creation of all things, right? The creation of everything. This is what Krona witnessed during the Crisis on Infinite Earths story that led to the Crisis event in the first place, right? So it's cool because literally this universe is completely and totally snuffed out, and that's basically it. It's basically wiped away. And so kind of coming to grips, being told this story and really sort of experiencing this to a degree seems to be Thor. Now, you really kind of draw this because of this kind of vision in his mind, but regardless of the situation, this Black Winter is powerful enough to wipe entire concepts out of existence. And so what we're basically doing now is we're at a planet called Clips, and this is the first of 5 planets. Now remember, the 5 planets that Galactus and Thor are traveling to are planets that are more more powerful than any other planet in the entirety of the universe. And when I say more powerful, I mean the energies they contain are enough to satiate Galactus in a way that no other world can. And it's designed to do this to give him enough energy and power to basically face off against the Black Winter. Now, this is one of the things that gets a little ambiguous and a little strange when it comes to these worlds, because the reality is the role Galactus plays is to consume worlds so that the celestial population does not go unchecked, right? Because the Celestials procreate by planting their seed more or less inside of a world. And then that baby Celestial will basically gestate and then sort of emerge from the core of the world, destroying it in the first place. If Galactus didn't exist, the Celestial population would run awry. But the Celestials require life-sustaining planets in order to create their own celestial life in that planet, right? So you guys kind of see how this sort of yin and yang takes place. Galactus keeps the Celestial population in check, and the Celestial population doesn't overrun the universe, right? So because of that, it's kind of weird, because we would kind of have to assume that this planet holds more power than anything else, but we're not really told explicitly why it is that it's like that. Like, what is it about this world that fills it with far more energy than the others? We don't really know. We may get an answer at some point in time, but at the moment, we're not really told this. And the other part of this is that Thor plays the role exactly as we would expect him to. When it comes to a lot of the heralds that are out there, the Silver Surfer, when it came to like Frankie Ray, when it came to a lot of those heralds, by and large, Galactus would wipe their minds when he made them heralds and then basically send them forward, right? They would go and do his bidding. But that was usually more often than not done when it was either the first of the heralds, or at least Galactus kind of correcting his mistakes, right? So screwing up with the Fallen One and then correcting that mistake with the Silver Surfer, or it's one of these things where a herald is intended to be a permanent herald, right? They're going to go forward and always be the herald of Galactus. Their past doesn't need to matter. That was one of the cases with the Silver Surfer. But with Thor, he's a temporary herald. Even if Donny Cates didn't tell us that, we know that's going to be true, right? Just because of the fact that we would like to believe that his story on Thor is going to last more than this particular arc, especially because the hammer of Mjolnir becomes heavier and heavier as time goes on. So that's a plot thread to basically solve and to figure out. But when Thor shows up here, he's still the king of Asgard, and he still sees himself that way. And so showing up on this world, he realizes there's life here. And the response of Thor is the exact same response that we got from the Silver Surfer. You cannot consume this world. This world sustains life. But remember, there's no real other option here. And under any normal circumstance, if Galactus was just looking to feed because his energy was running low, he would say, okay, find me a new world. But these worlds have to be consumed. These worlds have to be taken. And so the response of Galactus is, there is no other option here. You will do as I tell you to. And that's when you get one of the coolest moments, because literally Thor starts bickering with Galactus, starts arguing with him, and Galactus sends him down to the surface, right? So in turn, Thor takes his hammer and throws it through Galactus's fingers, literally rips his fingers off. It's one of the most ridiculous things, right? He's like, you dare strike Galactus? Like, Thor's like, yes, I know who I serve, right? Because Galactus is like, do you have any idea? Have you forgotten who it is that you serve? And Thor's response is, yes, I serve Asgard, and then pulls the hammer through his kneecap, right? Literally starts systematically dismantling Galactus. And it's awesome to see. The problem with this is the world they've shown up on seems to be an exceedingly primitive world, insofar as they haven't truly reached a point whereby their society has started compartmentalizing and breaking up based on the belief of deities, right? At this moment, their society is just trying to understand their place in the cosmos, right? So that's one of the things to understand. When it comes to societal progression, that takes thousands, if not millions of years to reach that point, getting to a point where they can start looking to the sky and understanding it, and then crafting stories based on what they see. There's a huge amount of time that takes place there. And this really kind of seems to be in that area, that point in time. And so seeing Thor, they immediately launch an attack because they don't know who he is. Now, if it was a race that believed in deities, they would see him as a deity, right? They would see him and Galactus as deities, as beings. They're super primitive people, and they start attacking the way a super primitive group of people would do. And so in turn, Galactus just assembles his world-devouring machine while Thor is distracted, and then starts charging it up. And so in one of the coolest moves that Thor does, he basically contacts Sif, who's the new Heimdall, more or less. You know, she essentially took the place of her brother. Then in turn, he basically says, open the Bifrost Bridge. And so the Bifrost Bridge grabs all these people and starts teleporting them away. And the response of Thor is, you can do whatever you want to these worlds, Galactus, but when we get there, any life that are on those worlds will be under my protection. I will take those individuals to a safer place, and then you can consume the world. Now, it's not the first time that we've seen this. If you guys remember from Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four, there's a point when future Franklin Richards visits his younger self and then wakes his younger self's powers up, right? Because they're going to need them for the Mad Celestials battle in the future. And so as a result of that, with Franklin Richards' powers awakening, Galactus becomes aware of this. And so Galactus contacts Reed and says, come with me. And so basically they kind of go on this little journey, this little trek around the universe, and Galactus goes to a world to feed and so on and so forth. And like for the first time, you know, you really get this indication where Galactus feels fear of Franklin Richards, because he says, your son's powers are awake now. Your son's powers are back. We need to talk about your son, Franklin. And it's just like, okay. So Galactus is kind of worried about about Franklin Richards now. It was pretty awesome. It was pretty amazing. But during that whole instance, when Galactus was going to start consuming the world, then essentially Reed asked, will you give us time to get people off the planet? And Galactus's response is yes, right? And this happened before in other comic book stories too. That's just really the more recent one that I figured you guys might find some interest in. But nonetheless, it's kind of funny because when this primitive race is basically brought to Asgard, they start encountering like Volstagg. They learn what it means to write, to draw, different things like that. And so really the Asgardians are fast tracking their evolution. And so in response to this, once all these individuals are off the planet, then Galactus starts, breaking down and consuming the world, absorbing his life energies. All the various animals, they all basically die, but he starts consuming the world. And then normally he would leave the world as like a dry husk, right? It would just kind of be this rock floating out in space. But ultimately he ends up destroying it. And Thor kind of chastises him for it. He's like, you didn't have to wipe out this entire world and all the worlds around it, right? You didn't have to do that. But the response of Galactus is, it's just the way things are, right? It's just the way that it goes. It was necessary as this is, and then in turn, initially seems to go to attack Thor, and then suddenly is bombarded by the side from like a whole bunch of missiles or something like that. And it's kind of like, okay, like there's a third party being introduced now. And when that happens, suddenly you see this hand kind of reach out, summon something, and then you basically end up realizing it was Stormbreaker. Stormbreaker is being summoned by none other than Beta Ray Bill. With that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, cliffhangers, if you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like. Make sure you guys check out Patreon, and remember, we have about a month before the next comic comes out, and I will catch you all later. Peace. Okay, I want to give a shout out to Kyle B, David Joseph, Ben, John H, AJ, Matt N, Jeff R, John H, Lean and Mean, which is an awesome name, Jason C, Austin S, Austin H, Joey M, Steven Z, Austin B, Adam K, and Genosis 916. Remember guys, you can send me messages and I'll run off whatever your message is at the end of the video, so long as there's nothing crazy. But if you want to put a message in there, send me an email, rob@robertjefferson.com, and if you are one of these people who gets shout outs, then I will tack it in there. And yeah, thanks for watching guys.